start. I love this song.
Good morning, everybody. Let's begin our hymnal. Let's all stand and sing together, "The Sun That Shines."
That's a great way to get started this morning. Thank you so much. And we have a relatively small group in the sanctuary today, so I really got to hear you sing that song, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So thank you. Yeah. So welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome again to all of you. We, as always, embrace all that you bring with you, all of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, all that helps make you who you are. And this includes those of you who have come to the early service here in person, as well as the many of you who are live streaming with us today. Great to have all of you. The reason we have a smaller crowd, and I know for those of you who live stream, it always looks like first service is empty. It's not. We often have 20 to 30 people here, but for whatever reason, they like to avoid the camera. So it looks like we've just got empty seats. But today we actually do. I think the volunteers and staff actually outnumber the attendees today. So welcome to the five official attendees. We're glad to have all of you here. But that's because we're having our annual Thanksgiving potluck after our second service. So I think a lot of folks stayed away so they can come to that. If you're in proximity and want to join us after our second service today, for those of you who are live streaming, please feel free to come. We'd love to have you. So that's happening. I did also want to note that the Unity candle is lit at the front of our sanctuary. That's something that we do when we've lost a member during the week. In Sally Cleveland, I don't know how many of you have been around long enough to remember the Cleveland, Sally and Dick Cleveland. Dick preceded Sally in death by a number of years, but Sally passed away earlier this week. She's been at Rockwood Retirement Community for a number of years now, and it's become increasingly difficult for her to come to church. So a lot of you may never have met them, but really wonderful couple. They've been were once very active and continue to be very supportive of our congregation. So we're thinking of her life with gratitude, and of course of her family now who are grieving her loss. Yeah, so that's all I have this morning. Why don't we take, you guys feel like walking this morning? You want to go say hi to somebody? Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. Seriously, let's go ahead and greet one another for a couple of minutes today, no? You're just going to wave. That's good. We'll just... Dietrich wrote his sermon for you. Wow. You're 46. Okay, for those who are live streaming, we're going to have to wait just a few minutes for people to get all the way up front here from the back of the room. Come on! There we go. Okay. All right. I guess we will set the coffee down and move forward with our chalice lighting. The chalice, as you hear me say each Sunday, is the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Our opening reflection this morning is from the classic work of children's literature, The Secret Garden, by Frances Hodgson Burnett. As in so many beloved children's stories, the adults are mostly absent, distracted, or otherwise occupied with matters of great importance, leaving the children to sort things out for themselves. Fortunately, Mrs. Sowerby steps in, a wonderful, motherly presence for orphaned Mary and motherless Colin, offering the kind of gentle, hard-earned wisdom that reminds us we continue to grow and unfold throughout our lives, no matter our age. There's no limit to what a body can do, said Mrs. Sowerby, if it's put into them to do it. Look at the garden. Even the oldest roses will bloom again if you but tend them kindly. There's none so old that a bit of sun won't stir, and it's the same with folk. When you think you've come to the end of your growing, that's when something wakes inside and says, there's more yet. You must listen to that. A body's never done learning kindness or courage or joy, nor done giving it. There's a queer, grand thing in the world, how every year you live, if you've been paying attention, makes you more yourself, not less. Folk think age narrows you, but it's the other way around. It deepens you like a well. There's no call to fear the years. They come to show you what you've planted all along. And if you find there's something you never planted, well, that's the time to begin. New things take root at any age. New lovings, new understandings, new courage. Why, the world would be a lonely place if only the young grew. Every season has its work, and every age has its blossoming. You keep a bit of earth in your heart, child, and tend it kindly, and it will surprise you all your days.
Okay. Let's sing For All That Is Our Life, which is perfect after what you read. Thank you. And we'll sing all 4 verses this morning.
Thank you. We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds. And we will begin, as we have been, on behalf of the people of Ukraine and Russia and that region of the world suffering from the violence and the destruction and the anxiety and everything going on there. And the same for the people of Palestine and Israel and that region of the world, for the people of Darfur and South Sudan suffering from violence and racism there, and of course for the immigrants in our own country who are not, it's not even limited to immigrants, whether they be here legally or illegally. It's just about all Americans now who fear having their cities invaded by militant forces. So we continue to kindle a candle on behalf of so many people that are suffering from tyranny in a variety of ways. Let's take a moment of silence, as always, on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Is this on? Okay. I also, before I play, I just wanted to mention that I just released a Christmas album, and so if anybody's interested in checking that out, come talk to me after the service. I have flyers that have all the information, so check that out.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That was beautiful. Well, good morning, everyone. Bun Bun is visiting us this morning, and he's always grateful to start the morning with a smaller, more intimate setting, because he can be a little shy. Can't you, Bun Bun? Well, we're glad you're here. And earlier in the week, he told me that he had a question about getting older. What was your question, Bun Bun? Do bunnies get carrots when they're old? Of course, Bun Bun. Sometimes you even get better at finding the best ones as you age, or you find new ways to prepare them. Last year around this time, weren't you telling me about your Grandpa Bunny's Thanksgiving carrot pie? Yeah, it was a recipe that he had spent years perfecting, and he was finally happy with it when he added a secret ingredient. Has he told you yet what the ingredient is, Bun Bun? Not yet. Well, maybe one of these days. Oh, is it scary to grow old? Well, it can feel a little strange when things change, but it's also when you learn new things and when you get to share what you know. And in fact, the upcoming holidays are a great time to listen to older friends and family. Their stories can help us feel safe and remind us of what's important. Can you think of any advice you've gotten from someone older? Oh, just last week, old neighbor owl, or your neighbor old owl, reminded you to be nice to the new animals that moved into the forest. I know you have a hard time making new friends, Bun Bun, but I bet old owl has a lot of experience. I'm glad that they could encourage you to be kind to strangers. You never know. Maybe one of the new animals will be a guest at your table this Thanksgiving and enjoy a slice of Grandpa Bunny's carrot pie. Yes, well, Bun Bun wants to wish all of you, and the musicians too, a very happy Thanksgiving, full of good food and good stories. Let's remember to thank the people who teach us and share their wisdom as we grow older. Happy Thanksgiving. See you later, Bun Bun.
As we move into a time of meditation, I invite you to find a comfortable position, close your eyes if you wish, take a few deeper breaths, and reflect on this wisdom from Journal of a Solitude by May Sarton. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places and failures, and a growing trust in what matters.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another mountain. sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another meadow. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. Oh, listen, Lord, if you want to know what the world needs now is love, sweet love. Well, it's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
Thank you so much. It's a beautifully sung and performed, of course, but also a beautiful message. And so simple. You know, we all grow up learning that, right? We're just supposed to be nice to each other, be kind to each other, look out for others. Don't let our needs get in the way of harming others, those sort of things. And yet, we do all sorts of ethical gymnastics to explain why that's not the world we live in. So, just to preface my sermon today, just in case there might be some live streaming who don't know, for the past several years now, I've been giving sermons that were originally given by my famous predecessor here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, Reverend John Dietrich, who was here between 1911 and 1916, where he became a humanist and then went on to become known as the Father of Religious Humanism, a signer of the Humanist Manifesto, all that kind of stuff, and you know, had a long career at the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. His pulpit actually became known as the Humanist Pulpit at that Unitarian church there. Now, his sermons were almost twice as long as mine. So when I say I'm redelivering his sermons, I've redacted quite a bit of the original text, maybe 30% or more in some cases. Fortunately, he used a lot of anecdotes and made the same point in multiple ways. So it's very easy to keep the content of his sermons intact. They always prove to be very timely, or just as important for us today. This one, Westward of 45, How to Grow Old, was given on the occasion of him turning 45, which is widely regarded as the beginning of middle age. Between 45 and 65. But it's really a sermon that has something for people of all ages. That's ultimately what it's about, is for, you know, how to grow old is really the significance of this. And I just found it very moving and thought-provoking, and an evergreen sermon that will mean something to everyone who's in attendance today. Again, this was originally given on October 14th, 1928, to give you some historical perspective. We think that just as autumn is the period of dissolution and decay in the natural world, so is the latter part of human life a similar period. We feel that just as the full-blown beauties of the summer wither and disappear in these chillier days, So the splendid powers of manhood and womanhood crumble and perish in the declining years of old age. And just as we are tempted to lament the passing of the flowers and the birds and the fresh green leaves, so we are tempted to lament the passing of the alert step, the eager gesture, the flashing eye, the full tone of voice, the hearty laugh, the tireless energy and happy strength. But to look at it in another way, autumn is not a period which marks the passing of the end of life. On the contrary, it marks the fullness and completion of life, the beautiful maturing of that which was blossoming in the spring and growing in the summer. And so we find that in human life, as in nature, the period of old age is the glad season of the harvest, a period not only of decay, but of fruitage, the period in which has come the maturity of all those attributes of personality which were cultivated during the early years of adulthood. The second reason for my subject is the fact that I have reached the age of 45, which is generally considered the mid-channel of human life. Dr. Stanley Hall, first president of the American Psychological Association, speaks of the period which I have now entered as the youth of old age. Whether it be the youth of old age or the old age of youth, it does mark a turning point in a person's life. If we think of life as a binomial curve rising from the baseline at birth and then sinking again into it against death, then middle age brings me to the highest point of the curve, the crest of the wave. And so there comes to everyone about this time the realization that the tide that drew us from out of the boundless deep begins to turn again home. But in youth we have ideals of maturity. Why not do the same when we're mature for the next stage? Why should not 40 plan for 80 just as intently as 20 plans for 40? As if 40 years old is one's infancy. The 50s are one's childhood, the 60s one's youth, and at 70 and beyond, one attains maturity. The region lying westward of middle age is one we shall all traverse if we live long enough, and our experience there will be largely a reaping of what in the earlier period we have sown. That a successful sowing is not too easy is evident from the failures that are everywhere apparent, which explains the bad repute into which old age has fallen. The hardest thing about life for most people is growing old. To see the bloom fading out of the cheek, the sparkle out of the eye, the vigor out of the limb, and worst of all, the poetry out of the soul. As the October of the year, even when lighted with all the splendors of ripened fruit and reddened leaf, a sadness about it that is never felt in the stormiest days of spring, so the October of life, even when surrounded with all the accumulations of maturity and success, has a shadow hanging over it such as never comes to youth's dreariest march. There is no better evidence of the attitude of people toward old age than the age-long endeavor to find some means of preventing it, beginning with the early explorers' hope of discovering the fountain of youth whose waters were to wash away all the stains and wrinklage of age, down through the chemist's long search for the elixir of life which would restore men to their vanished prime, to the drinking of buttermilk to kill germs which were thought to cause the degeneracy, or the transference of monkey and goat glands to bring back an old man's boyhood freshness and vigor. But in spite of all this quest, old age remains a fact that every man and woman must face. So that the real problem is not how to avoid old age, but how to make the most of it. There is no doubt that in one sense, old age is a decline, a disease which no medicine can cure. On one great side of our life, the physical side, whatever our earlier precautions and preparations, we are, after a certain age, certainly on a downgrade. We have ceased to be athletes. We take up less exerting sports for our exercise. We can no longer draw almost unlimited physical reserve. We tire more easily. But all that is not all, nor perhaps the worst. One of the fatal accusations against the latter half of life is that it lacks interest. A person by that time may have gained a fortune only to discover that the pleasures they hoped to purchase with it have ceased to be pleasures. As a deadly monotony sets in toward the end of life. One is like the boy Thackeray tells about in Vanity Fair. When he was a boy, he wanted taffy but did not have the sixpence. When he grew older, he had the sixpence but did not want the taffy. The fact is that the wonder of life has by this time frequently disappeared. And it is in this sense of wonder, it is the sense of wonder that makes life really worthwhile. As the English polymath John Ruskin said, "I had rather live in a cottage and wonder at everything than live in Warwick Castle and wonder at nothing." Even worse than this, some physiologists and some psychologists maintain that there is a decay of moral enthusiasm in life's after period, which renders the average middle-aged person less ethically valuable. History is full of stories of youth of high moral promise dashed by their latter years. Had Henry VIII died young, he would have appeared in our annals as a hero instead of a monster. Nero, when the pupil of Seneca, had excellent aspirations. In reading Plutarch's life of Alexander, one is struck with his deterioration of character, from the early warmth and generosity to the latter caprice and cruelty. The inner deterioration experienced by some in their latter years was expressed in somewhat startling fashion to me some years ago by a noted minister. "It is you young men," he said, "who must start the new ventures. It is no use looking to us old fellows. We believe in nothing and nobody." All of this is evidence of something seriously wrong somewhere. To declare half of our life to be necessarily a failure is to bring an indictment against life altogether. Either the order of the universe which ordains old age is faulty, or the failure lies in the interpretation of and obedience to that order. We have been told year after year that of course this life is hard and sorrowful, but that matters little because it lasts but a few years, while there awaits beyond the river of death an eternity of ease and happiness. To put the now and here of earth in such complete opposition to the then and there of heaven is to endeavor to extract from time and place what they were never intended to yield. If the worthwhile life cannot be lived here and now, it can be lived nowhere and no when. All of which brings me back to my opening suggestion, in which the view of life as a probation is taken in the sense that the after parts reap what the earlier parts have sown, and fails to reap what the earlier part has failed to sow. The failure, where failure there is, lies not in the game, but in the fact that we do not know how to play the game. Properly understood and followed, the human career, if we interpret it rightly to its very end, should be full of freshness and benediction. The whole business resolves itself into a question, whether life's after part is to be considered by us a decline or as part of a growth. Shall we think of life as a hill, one side of which we climb during the first half, while we descend the other side in the other latter half? Or shall we consider it a hill which we continue to ascend until the very end? Decay is always going on somewhere in every part of our human career. The fetus life and some of its aspects perishes when the child is born. Infancy and adolescence have each their growth, culmination, and ending as the child pushes on toward adulthood. But these losses do not make mankind of less worth. And so, while certain phases of mature adulthood may perish as we reach old age, these do not, in no sense, render old age less worthwhile. For old age has its blessings, as well as youth or mature adulthood, and blessings I'm inclined to think as worthwhile as those of the earlier periods of our life. With all the attractions of youth, there is no one, very few at least, who would wish to go back to all that it was. And with all the drawbacks of age, no one, or very few at least, would wish to give up everything that age has brought oneself. And this, I presume, is what all of us do really wish for when we speak of desiring to be young again. The blessings of youth along with those of maturity and age. The beauty, health, vigor of body, and freshness of feeling which belong to life's prime, accompanied with the balance of character, the breadth of experience, the treasures of love and knowledge that have been gathered up in its latter years. We want life to be like an apple tree that bears on its branches at the same time fragrant flowers and luscious fruit. All the vigor and bloom of youth without its ignorance and inexperience, and all the wisdom and worth of age without its wrinkles and weariness. So old age has its blessings as well as youth, only these blessings are more mental and spiritual than they are physical. And once again, this attitude toward it, once we gain this attitude toward it, everything assumes a new aspect. It is well to persuade ourselves, and the sooner in life the better, that there is no possible way of making our after-middle life a success except by considering ourselves in this world mainly and ultimately for mental and spiritual growth. That the one thing worthwhile in this life is the development of the soul. And this will indeed save that after period from monotony. Every time we add to our mental equipment or experience of life, old things take on new shapes. Everything becomes imbued with new meaning. I can remember as a freshman in college, I read Emerson's essays and wondered why people thought them worth anything. 10 years later, after having gained some experience and a larger mental outlook, I read them again and thought they were quite good. But at age 45, having experienced some of the things Emerson experienced and gained some of the mental outlook that he had, I find them a treasure of knowledge and inspiration. And so, as our inner nature develops, our world becomes even more beautiful. If each new spring does not bring us a deeper message, it is because we have been neglecting our inner life. To the growing soul, the world is ever renewing itself. Our fellow men grow always dearer to us, always more interesting. And how much more interesting does the whole order of the universe become? But as I have already said, we reap what we sow, and if we do not sow anything, we must not expect to reap anything. And if you do not sow and cultivate in your earlier life the things of the Spirit, then you must expect in old age impoverished, barren, destitute of any interest, a bore to yourself and everyone else. And this is the point I wish to impress upon you who are not yet too old. That which is not used shrivels up and dies. No doubt you have seen those fish in Mammoth Cave that have no eyes. They still have eye sockets, but because they have lived in the pitch dark so long, their eyes have atrophied. Nature is very economical. It never takes the trouble to feed any organ or faculty that is not used. And if it does not entirely disappear, it becomes only a rudiment, a vestige of what it was. And this is just as true in the mental realm as it is in the physical. There are people who have lost their ability to enjoy music simply because they have not cultivated an appreciation for music, or with no appreciation of natural beauty simply because they have not cultivated it, or people who are unable to find any joy in reading a book simply because they have not developed a literary taste. And so if I were asked for a recipe of how to grow old on the basis of this principle, that our earlier life is a preparation for the latter life, I should say first that one should accumulate and save enough money to keep comfortable during old age and no more. I cannot conceive of old age being a blessing in poverty, nor can I conceive it of being a blessing if one is burdened by too much wealth. In the second place, one should, above all things, preserve one's health so that old age will not be burdened by physical disability and distress. And in the third place, one should develop a taste for the aesthetic things in life, an appreciation of the natural beauty of the world, of art and music and literature, for these things above all bring enjoyment in our latter years. Finally, one should train one's mind that it becomes a keen instrument of impression and expression, for it is through one's mind that we establish contact between ourselves and the world. Education, in this sense, makes a person's life so full and rich, and especially in our latter days, that we might consider the extent of our education the greatest measure of our wealth. Lastly, nothing can make old age more worthwhile than the consciousness that others think well of us and are glad to welcome us into their hearts and their homes. Not only should we develop those things which give us a good reputation among others, but those deeper qualities of mind and heart which bring into our lives friendship and love and all the glad association of kinship with our own kind. The person who during the earlier period of life follows this recipe can look forward to a latter life of joy. And now, just a personal word, if you will pardon it, at the close. If it were not for the almanac, I would not know whether I'm 45 or 25. I feel exactly the same today as I did then. I do not mean that my body would stand the strain it was given in those days, but I mean that it performs what is required of it today just as well as was required of it then. I probably do not react to extreme exertion quite so well as I did 10 years ago, and when I lose sleep, I seem to miss it more than I did in earlier days. And when I look in the mirror, I find gray hairs. But aside from these few things, I've never been in better physical condition than I am at present. But you ask, what about the mind? Isn't that where middle age shows itself most? Who was it said no man learns anything new, or is even inhospitable to new ideas after 40? Look at your brain cells, not your hair, someone says. Aren't you getting old-fashioned and reactionary? Isn't the armchair of conservatism becoming comfortable, the slippers of convention warm, and the growing hearth fire of the status quo a cozy abiding place? Well, if so, I am not aware of it. For 5 years I have been watching for the first symptoms of a hardening of the brain cells. I've been watching for the moment when I should find myself outraged by the heresies of some young chap who ought to be spanked and put to bed. I have been waiting for the thrilling experience of meeting a new idea which would shock me instead of interest me. But in vain. If anybody has anything new to say, I want to hear it. I cherish a kind of longing to taste every variety of experience. But I still wait in vain for the experience of meeting a person or a movement that seems to me dangerous, or an idea that ought in decency to be suppressed. Not only that, but I expect to have more fun during the next 20 years than I had during the last. I feel that I am now just reaching my full powers, mentally and physically capable of more work and better work, more play and better play, and with so many years of play and work ahead of me that I never so much as think of my age. Every Monday morning I'm eager to get right up at to my next address and make it the best piece of work I've ever done in my life. Life is not a hill, one half of it spent in ascent and the other half in descent. I have no feeling of starting downhill, or having reached the top of any hill. If you want to call my life a hill, then you must confine it to the one side, because I see the road rising just as steadily and pleasantly ahead of me now as it was when I was 20. And the top of it is so far from where I am now, and so much higher that I can never see it. It is a long, winding road, good all the way, and I am looking forward to finding the freshest, brightest flowers and the sweetest, solidest fruits behind the middle post. So I'm going to keep on climbing, trying to be normal at every stage of the journey, and I'm not going to deceive myself 25 years from now by calling myself 70 years young. I'm going to be 70 years old. I have no desire to be a childish, immature old man, but a mature and ripened one, enjoying the normal conditions of 70 or 80 or 90, as I now enjoy the normal conditions of middle age. So I can say to you in the words of Robert Browning, "Come, grow old along with me. The best is yet to be, that last of life for which the first was made." Thank you.
Okay, let's sing Just As Long As I Have Breath. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Not only some of the best music from our hymnal, but so perfect for today's service. Thank you. Our benediction today is from Nepalese poet and humanitarian Bhuwan Tapalia. I am not disappointed by my old age. There are still stories to tell, paths to walk, and fire within that refuses to diminish. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.
Oh man, it's a little hard to do like a full-throated performance at 8 in the morning or whenever, or 9:15 I guess. Ah,
So I kind of like the vibe of me always performing right next to you.
it's
To make it
cozy.
more, it's cozy. It's more like come to our house. Because we're totally setting the vibe and everything that we're doing. So it's our music. So the more I can make it less of a performance, like on, obviously still performing, still
Right.
storytelling, still doing all the things, but in a space of, yeah, of your inner home.
Yeah, not like really like informal, but like more intimate kind of thing.
Yeah, like intimate. Thank you. That's the word. Intimate. I just want to create intimacy,
Words, yeah.
even for myself, so I can get present to him. So
Dude,
I'm not
seriously,
in a performance space.
Yeah,
You know, like it
that
doesn't.
just takes you out of it.
Well, it does, and
Or at
and
least,
it's,
yeah, for me.
yeah.
I don't mean to talk for you, but
No, yeah, but you know, like I want the hymnals to flow, things that we're doing. You know, I want my same feeling in the hymnals as I do in the songs.
Right.
So it's like it's for that, for that, for that. So yeah. So anyways.
yeah, that's kind of my problem. I like that. And my problem is like it's like. Yeah, I like it. Just start overthinking it. I like start thinking about like, oh, I need to make sure that I don't play for too long. I need to make sure that I don't, like,
Oh,
do all
really?
the- yeah, like it's like stuff that I like, practice it beforehand and everything. But it's like when I'm actually doing the thing, like I just have all this stuff running through my head that keeps me from actually just focusing on the music.
Yeah.
Like I always, like, it just takes me out of it. I take myself out of it. a
Yeah.
bit, so
Yeah,
it's-
I catapult to a different type of intimacy or a different type of performance.
right. Yeah,
And
because
then
like
it becomes about me. Am I doing it right? Did I get the wrong word right? Blah, blah, blah. It's like I used to feel relaxed and yeah.
right, it's like obviously still, my intention is to play as well as I can, but like it is a different kind of thing than like concert hall. It's
Right.
a different thing than playing at a bar. It's a different thing, like
Sure,
like,
right?
And so it's like playing in the church. It's like you don't want to be, or I don't want to be playing, and you probably feel the same way. Like like when you play on the concert hall, you're basically. I mean, you like bow to the people, and then
Right.
you practically like ignore them after that. Like they're not there. Like, you just have to, but they're there. And like it's like, it's like, it's not supposed to be that way because it's supposed to be like connecting with people on a more personal level instead of,
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Like inviting them in. Essentially. Like getting the energy of inviting in versus I have the message for them.
Right.
Or I have this performance for them. So cool. All right.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Cool. Yeah, it just feels and it makes us unique, it makes this church unique, it makes what we're doing here that we provide different than everybody else out there. You come here and you come to our house and we're doing our thing. Or we're just vibing together.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna focus on this. Did we send you a mic? Or was that just my
I think I mentioned in the thing that I sent for them to put in their their program, like I sent the little paragraph, and I think it's I don't know, I'd have to look up what I said, but it was I was like classical, jazz, rock, soul, doo-wop, just kind of cover. Like we're gonna play a bunch of